everybody. Hope you're good. Hope you're well.
It's so weird when this happens because I can't hear the intro music.
I know, and then I'm like...
So you just start talking?
I just like,
and
hey!
I'm like, oh, so this is happening now. Cool.
Cool. Bet. Okay, so we have reached episode 20, which is the last episode of the first season of I Swear to Drunk, I Am Not God.
Season finale.
And so with that being said, we're going to do this a little different. We're going to play. We're going to see how people like this, you know. So a couple things. On a personal level, Kirrah has a nice little situation that she's going to have to do, and she's got to go out of town for a couple months. Bye. So she got to go out of town. So we're recording this earlier, which didn't really give me enough time to actually research. All right. Full transparency. With that being said, we all, me, her, and my mother, have collectively watched a documentary that we were all kind of like, this is fucking insane. So I decided last minute to kind of do a hybrid. So I don't know if you all ever actually chimed in on my what the fuck did I just watch, which were like my little bonus episodes that I used to do in between weeks here and there when I would watch a documentary and then like talk about how fucked up it was. This is kind of going to be a hybrid of my normal episode in that it's going to probably be the same length. And my bonus episode, what the fuck did I watch? What the fuck did I just watch? Because it is going to be about the documentary that we watched, Disappeared, on the Bradley sisters, which is insane. And I would also like to preface it by saying that this is an open case. We are not legal people. We are not lawyers. Anything that we say here is our fucking opinion.
Please trust me.
At the end of the day, this is just two niggas talking on a podcast about a documentary that they watched. I cannot claim that anybody did shit. I can't prove that anybody did shit, but we have our opinions. We're going to treat this episode like a whodunit. How about that? It's going to be like a nice game of Clue. Okay, we're going to lay down as many facts as we can. I'm going to tell you the specifics, and you can roll it around in your head. And if you want to dive into it more, obviously, watch the same documentary. It's an open case. Maybe you can contribute something to this case to help them solve it. To all my Chicagoans, because this is also local.
Quite local.
Yeah, the documentary that we watched was Disappeared on Investigation Discovery, which was actually produced by my producing teacher, which is crazy.
Really?
Gary Sherman was a producing teacher that I had, and his company produced this documentary for Travel ID. They also have a Disappeared podcast where they are uploading episodes weekly, if I'm not mistaken. There are 2 episodes currently. I suggest you check those out because you do get into a little bit more, actually a lot of bit more than a documentary does. So Kirrah, now it's funny because Kirrah originally started watching it. Well, no. I'm sorry. Me and Mama started watching this together. Because she told me about it before she left. She said she told me, she said, I think you should do something on the Bradley sisters. And I had never heard of them. I mean, I just don't pay attention to local news. And I think it was just,
I don't think we were
2001. Here. I probably wouldn't have been paying attention to anything, but
were we here?
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were.
Oh.
I was in high school. But it was lost on me. So I apologize for not being aware of, what's going on in town. But I will say that I would like to say that part of what I do when I'm doing Swear to Drunk, I'm Not God, I prefer to do things that are open and shut. I don't always like to do things as they're ongoing. That's frustrating to me. You know what I mean? Because I don't have everything and it's coming out in dribs and drabs. This is a case that happened 22 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't want to commit to that extent to one particular case because it would frustrate me at some point, especially when it's like obvious to me who I think did it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, why is everybody just like, oh, it's all circumstantial? We'll get into all of this.
Well, I think that's why I haven't listened to the podcast yet, because I had to take a couple of days off. I'm like,
this sucks.
This shouldn't still be a thing.
Yeah, it really sucks. And to be totally honest, but to me, when I do my episodes, I like to be able to give you a beginning, middle, and end. So the idea of doing things that's ongoing. Plus, I'm not that this is a super popular podcast, because it isn't. But if it was, I don't want to inject my opinion in it. I'm not a professional. You know what I mean? Like, some people, they interview these people, and kudos to them. They may have the expertise and the wisdom, but I'm not going to pretend like I swear to drunk I'm not God is not just a podcast where I get drunk and talk about terrible crimes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the ability to fight crime. I can say like, oh shit, this is whack. But in an age where everybody has an opinion, I'm just trying to find my place in it. You hear me? So I don't even want to go into this pretending like we're going to start investigating this deeper, because I just don't have that skill.
First of all, I got enough problems.
I can barely get through to, what's that game? Those games I buy? Fucking Hunt a Killer. Hunt a Killer be kicking my ass. Have y'all ever?
barely get through a fucking puzzle. And I mean just a regular 300-piece puzzle.
I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to put y'all on game real quick, because some of y'all may know about it, some of y'all may not. But there's a company called Hunt a Killer. And Hunt a Killer, I did one party. Remember, Kirrah? The one Hunt a Killer party?
I remember.
But it happened right before COVID. So we had one party. But you can subscribe to like these monthly to these cases where I should have been doing that this whole motherfucking rap, but I didn't want to spend the money low key.
I was gonna say, for what?
Yeah, I mean, you can also let me tell you what it is. So basically, every month, at the time it was like $30 a month. They'll send you evidence to solve a case, and you just get these shipments monthly. You work out the case, piece by piece. Then there was a shift where they started doing these like premium packages where you can actually get the whole case, but it's just more expensive. And then they started selling like $30 boxes at Target where you could literally just get the whole case and play the game. The only thing I always say about these games, though, that's kind of unfortunate, is that if you don't pass them on to someone else, you can't really replay them.
You just got a stack of games in your...
Yeah, because when we were kids, we grew up playing Nancy Drew. So, playing the Nancy Drew. Huh?
You played, I watched.
Yeah, facts. But we played the games and we would continue to play it because it was kind of like, you could do like a medium version or an expert version. You know what I mean? Like you can change the difficulty level to a certain extent. It was like when you were the junior detective versus when you're a senior detective. So it's kind of like you had two games. Mm-hmm. Low key, never played any of the senior levels.
Yeah, you did.
When?
There were a couple of them where you played the senior levels, like the first one.
I did?
I think so. Yeah, like Message in a Haunted Mansion.
Maybe stay tuned for danger.
For sure. Like the ones that you played multiple times.
Yeah.
You did senior.
Because I'm like, I don't remember doing senior, but you remember better than me. Well, none of the
newer ones, no, because the newer ones were hard.
The newer ones got hard for sure. And then the graphics got bad. It was just the NAS. I don't know how many. Low key, I feel like there's a small niche of that generation that knows about these games.
I'm sure.
But Hunt a Killer was kind of like my adult version of Nancy Drew. I love mystery games. I really, really do. And so sometimes
you just like mystery, period.
I like mystery movies. Come on. How many times have I seen Clue? Yeah. Murder on the Orient Express.
You also like Humphrey Bogart movies.
That's true. Maltese Falcon. So to me, the whole mystery thing has always been my thing. So when I, got older and I was like, damn, they didn't make any of these games digital because we only had discs. And that's a lie. They did make them digital. What they didn't make them digital for was MacBook. No. So what I did was I nigger rigged it. I basically got one of those like platforms that would turn my MacBook into an Apple to a PC. And then I downloaded all the games individually.
I've been thinking about getting a computer gaming like a
computer,
laptop.
I thought about getting a separate
someone
laptop.
I know,
too.
she plays on a gaming laptop, and I'm like, damn, your Sims just look so much
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I were one of those, I think I've never thought about it before because I don't play like Call of Duty and stuff on the computer.
Yeah.
If I play Call of Duty, it's on PlayStation.
Period.
But yeah, I think a gaming laptop would actually be cool.
I think so too, because low key, like I want to kind of just go back to the old games that I used to play. But then even when I think about everything that people are doing on Sims, I'm like, I wouldn't mind kind of getting into the Sims world. Cause I never, like I played the original Sim City, which was hard as fuck to play.
Oh, which is completely different from the Sims too.
Hell yeah. And then when Sims 2 came out and they were starting to kind of like, change the graphics, kind of, focus on like the individual lives of a group of a particular sim instead of you having to build a whole city,
Yeah, Sim City was different.
Yeah, Sim City was way different. So then when they got into the individual games, Sims 2, Sims 3, Sims 4, all of those, I mean, it was fun. The only problem back then was that you had to buy the different CD-ROMs to get the different modules,
the expansion packs.
The expansion packs
I mean,
you had to do. Huh?
It's the same way.
But now you can download them.
Yeah, it's just
back
all
then you
downloaded.
couldn't download them.
But it just the only thing is it takes up so much space.
Yeah,
now.
It does.
Those expansion packs, my laptop, my MacBook can only hold the Sims.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I literally can't even say Word document.
I mean, doing this podcast on my MacBook has turned into an issue. Like I've now had to transfer some of my files to the cloud somewhere just to get them off the actual hard drive. And I mean, to me, like I know they have like Sims Online and all that other shit, but
That's
I
not
like
the same
having
either.
the software.
Playing Sims Online is almost like when people were playing it on GameCube.
Oh yeah, see that was weird.
It's not the same.
Yeah. Or when people playing on PlayStation, I was like, how are you playing the Sims on PlayStation?
Because it's not the same story mode.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want to build a house using X and circle.
Yeah, that's true.
It just
Triangle.
I don't know, call me picky.
Like when I put in the motherload code
which I'm still gonna do.
Period, because I got to be rich in the Sims.
But even now, like
even if I work for it,
I've been playing the expansion pack where you can have your own business.
Bitch, what?
So my Sim has a bakery.
She would.
And that's because I used to want to be a baker.
Yes, she would.
She has a very successful cafe.
Okay.
Where she's the only employee. She makes all of her pastries at home. She carries them over in her inventory to put into the work refrigerator at the cafe. And then she opens her cafe for 10 to 12 hours, makes her money, and closes.
So literally, I'm about to download all of this when we're done.
You can go to Sims. You can go to work with your Sim.
So it's no longer, they just go to work and then come. You can speed up time and
Depending
then
on
come
the job,
back.
yeah. Like I've played before where my Sim was a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And they can
that'd be fun.
You can just be a scientist at work. And then the more you accomplish, or even when they're a doctor.
Like you just go there and do science
work.
shit.
Yeah, you can go there and do blood work. You can run tests, and then you get promotions based off of how well you're doing at work.
I'm so down.
It's some of the best.
Matter of fact,
shit.
like low key, like I'm going to go to Best Buy and get me a laptop.
Let's turn it up a notch. Let's just whip out the card and just go get a gaming laptop.
That was such a...
If I could, I thought about getting a PlayStation. I'm like,
I thought about that too.
Like when winter comes around, I'm not gonna be outside.
I'm not. Me and Sal just talked about that. We were like, I'm over the whole like.
I don't want to do outside.
Like I just want to spend more time in my apartment that I pay
just wanna
for.
be on the couch.
My apartment is very expensive, and like I need to calm down a little bit. I live on 63rd. I've been out here.
I still just want to be in the house.
Period. Sorry. So, hey, this is episode 20 of the Bradley Sisters. So we're going to talk about it. Now, what I also want to add is that because I took notes, so this isn't going to be like me reading like a full, synopsis of what I read or what I wrote based on a book that I read or a documentary I watched. This was going to be like a conversation. So that's what makes this a little different. Because even on What the Fuck Did I Just Watch episodes, I typically just talk shit to you all about how I watched this documentary and how wild it is. I don't always give you 100% all of the details and all of the specifics. This time you're going to get a lot of specifics because this is also a Swear to Drunk episode. You feel me? Do you understand the hybrid?
Okay.
Do you understand that? Got it. All right, cool. Bet. All right. Let me give me some agua. Oh, and also this episode is just rogue. I don't have a drink for you, but I will in the show notes when I drop this episode. My goal is to actually make a drink using the Elderflower and Rose Gin that I bought from Canada. That's why I'm kind of irritated. I'm on medicine, so I can't drink, but I'm kind of irritated with not drinking because I was supposed to make that cocktail, but
I haven't been
you ain't gonna
drinking as
die.
much.
Yeah. Most people don't watch this while drinking, so it's fine. I mean, really, the podcast was to also display my ignorance when I have alcohol in my system.
Okay.
That was it. I'm a very loving person, but I'm stupid. So cool.
Take it
I mean, I'm not beating myself up. It's just it's a fact. I enjoy how ridiculous I can be. I don't have a problem with it at all. All right. So let's go. Now, so Disappeared, the documentary on the Bradley sisters. Now, the Bradley sisters are two African-American girls, Tionda and Diamond. Tionda was 10 and Diamond was 3. Their mother, Tracy. I want to give you the characters. Ed Carroll is actually one of the police officers that was helping Pamela Child, who's another investigator. She actually works for the SVU, the Special Victims Unit for the Chicago Police Department. They were working together, and this case took place around the 4th of July in 2001. Now, here's the story, because Kirrah knows the story anyway, because she watched the documentary, but there are a few things that me and my mother talked about after we listened to the podcast that I think Kirrah would find interesting. So Tracy, I'd like to preface this by saying that, again, we don't know these people. We acknowledge that people make mistakes and people do things that they're not supposed to do. We grew up in similar environments to the point where I felt like we were okay to do this episode because there were just things that I felt like the investigators didn't completely understand because of the environment that these people grew up in, basically the hood. And if you don't know hood, the culture of the hood per se, I don't think you'll fully understand what some of the comments that we will say about them. So it's not even to be malicious. It's just that this is not how Black people in this environment operate.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So Tracy, in my opinion, I want to start with Tracy because obviously Tracy is the mother of Tionda and Diamond. And she left for work. This is her story. That she left for work the July 6th and came home and her kids were gone. And the meat of this situation is pretty straightforward. In the beginning, she talks about how she took these two kids, these kids, all 4 of her kids, on a 4th of July, kind of like picnic barbecue situation in Washington Park. She had 2 other children, Victoria and Rita, who at the time, which was 2001, were 12, and Rita was 12, and Victoria, remember, being about 8. She was 8, going on 9. So that would be the last time they'd all be together, because for some strange reason, on July 5th, Tracy cannot remember exactly what she did that day. She can't remember the story. She says, I'll have to think back a little bit. And then she says, I dropped the other kids, which is Victoria and Rita, off at her mom's house, which is Victoria and Rita's grandparents. Now, she dropped these 2 kids at her mom's house and came back home. She said, I have to think about it a little bit because we dropped them off back at the house or somewhere we went. That's a quote. Somewhere we went.
Drop them back at the house or somewhere we went.
Yes.
So we could have either gone home or we could have gone to Target. Or we could have gone
to the circus. We could have did anything. We could have gone to Paris. Somewhere we went.
Anywhere.
That's all she got. So which is obviously an incomplete sentence because she's fumbling her words a lot.
These are her kids, by the way.
These are her children. So she got 4 kids. Tracy took 2 of the oldest ones, Victoria and Rita, to her grandmother's house because on the 5th of July, they decided to go camping. And why did they decide to go camping? Because Tracy's boyfriend, quote unquote, that she had been dating since early 1995, roughly, who was never close to the girls, decided to take them camping.
You got to tell them his name.
His name's George Washington. Not to be confused with one of the forefathers, but low key in this summary, I was like, I'm gonna put Abraham Lincoln only because to keep calling him George Washington is irritating.
And even like when you watch the documentary, it's like, okay, I feel like y'all are mocking.
Yeah,
like it doesn't feel like his real name.
Doesn't.
So every time somebody wants, every time someone goes George Washington, I'm like, if that is his real name.
When I talked to Mama about it too, I literally said, do you think they used a pseudonym? And I was like, but if they use a pseudonym, why would they use George Washington? And then when she was like, no, I mean, I've seen his name mentioned in other sources. And I'm like, well, are they intentionally calling him George Washington?
Why don't they just
was his
call him
name
George?
But then, and we'll get to this, we'll find out that there was another child named George as well.
Yeah, he was.
So I was like, oh my God. But anyway, that threw me for a loop because I literally was high as shit watching this documentary and I was like, I can't take this seriously.
And that's kind of what it was given when they kept saying, and George Washington. I'm like, y'all not taking this seriously.
I was like, why did y'all?
I don't think that we're taking this seriously.
So yeah, for the sake of this, it's probably his real name. And if it is, that's fucking hilarious.
I hope it's not.
So anyway. So it was George Washington's idea.
It's got to be something else.
It's just something else we could have did.
We won't make it. Let's call it
J-Dub. G-Dub. So I
take that more seriously than George Washington.
I will just call him George. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so he decided, mind you, like I said, he was never close to these girls. And so on the 5th of July, he was like, let's take the kids camping. And she was like, okay. And so they prepare to go camping. Now, Tracy says that she went to go get a tent. And the reason why the other 2 girls were dropped off at the grandmother's house was because they couldn't, and this is according to Victoria, which is one of the oldest daughters. She said that, they couldn't really afford to take all 4. Now, let's talk about this camping. Southsiders, if you're listening.
Bronzeville, to be exact.
Bronzeville, if you're listening. Y'all go camping a lot? Probably not. And here's the crazy part. George Washington, now this comes up on the podcast. This is the part, Kirrah, that you didn't know about. George Washington.
George. Please just call him George.
I'm sorry. George. George was from Detroit. So because he was from Michigan, George also, he did go camping. And but here's where he made his fatal mistake. To me, the fatal mistake would be the fact that Chicago, black people don't camp. So assuming, let's just say, because I don't know a lot of people from Detroit. I should have asked my homeboy from Detroit, but I didn't. I should have. I should be like, yo, do y'all go camping in Detroit?
And he can be like, hell no.
He'd be like, nah, we don't do that. So, but culturally in Chicago, I don't know of any black people that go camping in Illinois. So if you traveled to go it is. It's creepy.
It's not a place for black people to be camping.
No, we don't need to be chilling. But I would say Michigan isn't either. But people will sometimes travel to other places to camp. But I don't know anybody in Chicago that camps. What we do is we do go to the Forest Preserve for barbecues and picnics.
For barbecues.
What we do is we go to the bank, to the beach for barbecues and picnics. What we do is we go to the park weeks for barbecues and picnics. And even if we had a festival, which would probably be the only time we'd have a tent, is if some niggas went to Chosen Few.
Or a camping festival.
Even then, you probably already have a tent for just that. Just that. Oh, because every summer we go to these festivals.
It wouldn't even be a tent.
It's not a tent to sleep in.
It would not be a tent. But also, them not being able to afford to take both kids.
Yeah, 4 kids. All 4.
To take 4 kids?
Yeah.
Doesn't really make sense either.
Because it's just camping.
So, like, how much extra money you think you're going to spend on s'mores material?
Yeah, but this was also a glaring contradiction, because here's the bigger issue. July 5th was when he decided that they should go to camping, according to Tracy. July 6th is technically when these girls go missing. July 7th is Victoria's birthday, which is one of the oldest children that you just sent to grandma's house. Why would you take the 2 youngest kids, if you did have to split them? You got 4 kids. If you did have to split these kids, why wouldn't you take the oldest ones? Because the oldest one's birthday is tomorrow.
Yeah.
You didn't think the baby she'd like to go camping?
She left her in the house.
And she literally was like,
home.
Bye. Here's the thing. So she gets there. She finds out that the kids are gone. She drops beforehand, she drops these girls off at the grandmother's house. Then she goes about her fucking day. Don't remember what she did. She's fumbling over her words. It's giving lying, And then she said that she laid on the couch and she went to sleep into the next day. And then she told Tionda on July 6th that she was going to work. And she claimed that after she got off work, she was going to take Tionda and Diamond to go camping. That was what she said, her original story that she told to police, that she was supposed to be taking Tionda and Diamond camping with George Washington on the day of July 6th. Okay. Now, we already said that the camping thing is mad weird. We already said that it's also weird that you have another daughter whose birthday is tomorrow and you didn't think about taking her, which is like very fucked up.
Dumb.
So what she also said is that don't open the door for anybody. This is her leaving for work the following morning. Don't open the door for anybody. So that means that Tracy and George are the only 2 people that knew that the kids were alone in the house. That we know. Then she said that she started calling the house to check in. Then she said that it kept going to voicemail. She also said that her mother kept calling the house as well. George picks her up from work now, which is around 11 o'clock. So now we got 4 hours later. When she gets home, the back door is open. She said that she called for the 2 girls and she couldn't find them. That was on July 6th. There was a note that she found on the back of the couch that said that she was going to the store. And that
it said that the girls were going to the store.
Yes. Tionda and Diamond were going to the store. It seems as though Tracy's mother advised Tracy to not call the police after seeing this note, because if she called the police, they were possibly going to take Vicky and Rita. Okay, now here's the story with that. The issue with Tracy is pretty simple. Tracy got something going on. I don't know if it was drugs in the past. I feel like, maybe booze. Maybe she had a little bit of some sort of problem. She got a look about her. I don't want to blatantly disrespect this woman, but she got a look about her based on my experiences of living in West Englewood that I've seen before. I don't know if it's drugs. I don't know if she played around with, hooking, or if she, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I know she was incredibly poor, which is, when you're in a poverty stricken area, sometimes these are some of the characteristics of some of the people that live there. And because of that, because of her background, she was very afraid of losing her kids, them being taken away. Now, what we find out in the podcast is one of the reasons why she was afraid of her kids being taken away too. And I thought that it was weird that they didn't mention this in the documentary. Tracy's sister committed suicide after she lost her kids, which I felt like would put Tracy in a little bit of a different eye. What Tracy was also doing that she didn't want to be honest about, she didn't want to be honest about the fact that she had left them there alone, which we also know is a very common thing to do. Back in the day, they called those latchkey kids.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't afford to have babysitting, which most people can't, because babysitting and daycare or anything remotely close to any after school program is expensive. So you just leave your kids at home for a couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what was so annoying to me about that, even in the documentary, was like, the police didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But the police can't understand that anyway, because A, these are men.
Sure.
B, these are white men.
True.
C, these are white male cops. So they're thinking it as, okay, even if you did leave your kids at home, you still broke the law and leaving them at home.
It's still child neglect.
And it's like, okay, but what is she supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I will say, too, there's two types of this. There is the actual child neglect version, which is I just leave my kids at home because I don't give a fuck. And there's also the version that is I am a working mother and I can't afford a babysitter and this is what I have to do. And sometimes what women do, especially when they have a lot of kids, they just put the oldest kid in charge. Because Rita, who was 12 at the time, had stated that there have been many times where she was left in charge because 12 is old enough. And to a certain extent, when you're living in the hood, age relativity is not that big of a concern. You're like, okay, well, she's almost 13, so I think it's okay that she watches the kids. At this age,
she goes to the store.
Yeah,
she helps around the house.
And you know what's funny? We talked about this in the James Boulder episode because I said because of the area and the poverty in the area that it wouldn't have been all that uncommon for two 10-year-olds to be walking with a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Because sometimes other kids do take the kids to the store. That's just what happens. So to me, even though it is technically considered child neglect, it's not that strange given the people that we're talking about if the kids were left alone for a long period of time, an entire workday, even. It really just doesn't. Now, what came up in the podcast that did not come up in the documentary was the fact that Tracy did this a lot to the point where people were like, DCFS is going to take these fucking kids. And a few times family members had threatened to call DCFS on her, which I don't, culturally, I hate to say it again, is very common, especially an older sibling, a grandmother, a great aunt, anybody like that will be like, see, what you're going to make me do is call DCFS on you. And that's kind of their punishment, their way of like trying to whip you into shape. It's not anything that I don't even feel like people really plan on doing or want to do. They just use it as a threat and to see if it'll whip that person who's, being negligible into shape. Tracy had this issue, and then to have the sister lose her children, her sister commit suicide because of losing her kids. I think those would have been two important pieces because it puts you in a certain framework for Tracy. But they didn't. And that could be for network reasons or whatever. Now, so they are the only two that know that these kids are alone in the house. Now, George picks her up from work at around 11 o'clock. Back door is open and she finds this note, and the note says that she's going to the store. But it doesn't just say, it's not just like weird that she wrote this note. What was weird was the fact that, and this is from the oldest sister, they didn't write notes. She said, we had our mom's number. We would just call her. We would have never written a note. Now, Tracy's mom advising her to not call the police, again, isn't that common because Black people don't always want to engage with the police right away. Let's see what the situation is. So Tracy claimed that she wanted to see if she could find them on her own. Tracy, and I'm not laughing because it's funny, because it's nowhere near fucking funny, and I'm not even really laughing. She is in an apartment complex with a side entrance that is always wedged open with a rock. And on the documentary, in present day, that same door was still always wedged open with a rock. So the kids never actually used the front door. They always used this side door to enter and exit the front door. They would always use the side entrance. So at some point, you know, I guess George and Tracy end up deciding, well, we're going to go and we're going to search over by the beach. They go to, because this is like right in the Bronzeville area, right off 35th Street. They go to 35th Street and then they walk up. Excuse me. I said they. That was cute. He drops her off on the bridge. That bridges over Lakeshore Drive. Mm. He drops her off at the bridge, yells at her that she should probably call the police, and drives away.
And this is a man that she's been with since like
95.
And we're now in early 2000s. And if y'all have been together this long and he hasn't created some form of a relationship with you and your kids to the point where he gives a fuck enough to even stick around and help you look for them when they've gone missing, that's kind of a problem.
That's a problem. I think that it's very strange. I think I told you or told Mama, I said you should always look at the person that's not interested in helping you.
Yeah, because it's like regardless of the fact or if you wanted kids or not.
Yeah.
2 children just went missing.
Yeah.
You don't even think about
of your quote unquote girlfriend that you've been with for 6 years.
Right. And it's like even outside of these not being your kids, you can't even think, it could also make me look guilty if I don't give a fuck.
That's how you know you're dealing with a narcissist.
Like that didn't even make you, oh, I guess I should at least stick around.
Pretend like I give a fuck.
And I don't care. I should, so I don't incriminate myself. I should like just drive her somewhere.
Maybe I'll just take her around the block a few times.
Maybe I'll act like I'm calling the police. Like,
you know, I know it's July. I know it was hot, but goddamn, that whole strip, you could have technically drove down that strip while she was on foot. My guy. So you need to look at the person who at the end of the day is not helping you search. That's kind of like when my shit go missing in my apartment and it's only 2 people and the one person's like, I don't know where it is. Nigga, what? Like you ain't gonna lift a finger? Like you see, I'm pressed. Yeah. So, but they let 8 hours go by before the mom, finally was told that her sister called the police. So Tracy had a sister named Felicia, who I think has since passed away. She and the mom was like, it's time to call the police. And then finally, I guess Felicia was the type of sister that just did shit anyway. Felicia was like, I called the police already. She was like, y'all bullshit. And I don't know what the fuck y'all got going on, but I'm calling the police. So George, he never got involved in this search at all. He stayed in the car while she was searching the beach. He said that I tried to help the investigators at the beginning. This is what he said later. I tried to help the investigators at the beginning. So she searches this lakefront. So George, he drops her off at the bridge, all of that other shit. There was this one theory that the note was about her going to the store, but maybe she stopped at the playground, which apparently there was this academy that she was attending summer school in. They had a little playground, so they were thinking that maybe she dropped off. She played around at the playground, but there's no proof that actually happened. With regards to that note, though, they thought that the note was weird because it didn't sound like anything that she would write. They analyzed the writing and they realized that it was Tionda. So one of the relatives, they were like, well, isn't it a possibility that she was forced to write this note?
I mean, the only reason I didn't think anything of it is because when they showed the note, it was like, her handwriting just looked like the handwriting of a child. Sure. Almost like she didn't look like she was nervous. Yeah. You know how her hand would be
Mama
shaky?
Corrected me on this too. She said, well, if the handwriting analysis would have showed if she did it under duress.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, if she was stressed out at any point, we would have known.
So then there was a epiphany around the time they are like having this powwow with the family, trying to figure out where the kids are, one of the relatives realized that they got a voicemail from Tionda that day. And she said that she was going to the store with George in the voicemail.
To buy a cake.
2
days. No? Wasn't it 2 days before that girl's
It was
birthday?
the day before. So the two oldest daughters remember the voicemail a bit differently. The oldest daughters, because at first it was the aunt that said, going to the store with George. But then one of the daughters said, no, the voicemail said she was going to the store with George to get a cake. The cake would have been for Victoria, whose birthday was the following day. Now, I'm sure that we've all had birthdays other than Jehovah's Witnesses.
We've all had birthdays.
You know good and goddamn well ain't not a person on this planet buying a cake a day in advance.
Yeah, I'm like, you'd have to sit it in the refrigerator. It gets hard. It's not good.
But what you buying her a cake for if you're about to go camping?
If you're going camp. But also, they showed where they lived, and it was right behind
the Jewel?
It was right next to the Jewels, and it wasn't in the complex. It was in the complex behind that one.
Yeah, it was, because like Prairie Shores or
Lake Meadows.
Lake Meadows.
That's what it is.
Yep.
So it was behind Lake Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
It was across the street from it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in walking distance to Jewels, why would you go the day before this girl's birthday?
Thank you.
You would go.
You could go a minute before the party.
You walk.
Yeah.
Across the street
on a hot summer day. Why would you go get a cake?
And why would he be so involved in your kid's
all
birthday?
Of a sudden.
He's not even taking her camping.
Thank you.
Like,
all
she's
of a
staying
sudden.
home, and now you like her enough now to go get her a cake.
No, the camping trip was supposed to happen after Tracy got off of work. They didn't get a chance to go camping because it was never a fucking plan to go camping.
Yeah. I'm like, because the camping never made sense.
The camping don't make sense. He was thinking like a Michigander. He wasn't thinking like an Illinois person, because in Illinois, motherfuckers on the Southside don't go camping. And when you listen to the podcast, the aunt says Tracy was not a outdoorsy person like that to be wanting to go camping. And when they asked Tracy,
people aren't.
No. And then when they asked Tracy whether or not she was interested in going camping, she said no. So, well, why did you agree to go? And he was like, because this was her words. It was George's say so. Not because it was George's idea. I'm breaking this down differently because I think it's important to understand some of the subtext to how Black people talk, especially when we say things in different variations. Like I sent my homeboy, I almost said boyfriend. What the fuck? I sent my homeboy an Instagram and I said, "You good?" And he was like, "What way do you mean that?" Because Chicago motherfuckers mean you good in like 99 different ways.
Yeah, it's true.
And so that's what I'm saying in this particular instance, too. There are always, like, when it comes to Black people, there's always that underlying, it's what we're saying and what we're really saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't go camping. If Tracy never went camping, and she got a boyfriend that's saying, "I'm taking the kids camping," that's his say-so, in my opinion. Say-so implies he demanded something. That's my say-so. You know what I mean?
Why?
But what I think what another person, and maybe this is a slip on her part, a language slip on her part, because another person would have said it was his idea.
Yeah.
Why did she say it was his say-so? Because he demanded to do it.
Some power over her. Don't know where the power came from.
Oh, I can
but
tell. I got my theories on that too.
Oh, for sure. But even the way, like, she was protecting him too.
Yeah.
Like, she's scared to say certain things in the documentary where she would just, "Oh, I forgot."
Yeah.
When in actuality, it's like, if these...
Well, that's probably because they both still alive.
Yeah, you're scared.
For sure.
With good reason, too.
For sure.
Because clearly it's some shit going on.
Absolutely.
And if they can take both of your kids, they can get you.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
Or your other kids.
Absolutely. And that's what I said. That's what I was telling Mama, too. I was like, when she said say so, she was right. If she said, "Oh, it was his idea," okay, it was his idea, but you didn't have to agree to it. Idea is kind of open-ended. I had an idea.
You got some say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had an idea. I was thinking about taking the kids to camping. That means that we both agreed to take them camping. For you to say George's say so, that implies that George was forcing the issue to go camping. So here we are, right? She is basically saying that George had this brilliant idea. They were supposed to be picking up this cake. All right, I don't need to keep hashing over that part. But what was fucked up too, there was another George in the neighborhood. His name was George Senior. His name's George Senior. He wasn't, to me, he's not a great suspect because the kids actually never call him George. They called him Porgy. Mm-hmm. And obviously Georgie Porgy makes sense. So they called him Porgy. So now that we know that the kids would have never referenced the George, the neighbor George, because the George that they were possibly thinking could have been a suspect was actually Porgy. Porgy lives upstairs. He's a neighbor that sometimes watches the kids. Now, in the documentary, they said babysits the kids. He probably don't babysit them kids. No. What he does is he goes downstairs and he checks on them when Tracy's not there. I guarantee you that George, the neighbor Porgy upstairs, never really babysat the kids. He's probably an elderly neighbor that at the end of the day, when Tracy is gone for a number of hours, she calls him and says, hey, could you go downstairs and check on the girls? Either
that or he knows that she stays gone for long periods of time. And he just goes and checks on her.
Absolutely. Either that. Yes. So, but even then, the girls and the oldest girls in the documentary even say, we never call him George. So Tionda would never have written a note referring to him as George. Now, then this question of this cake, why would you buy a cake the day before a person's birthday who's not going on a camping trip? You know, like it'd be one thing. This is where this is so stupid. If Victoria went on the camping trip, it would make sense that you would go pick up a cake.
Yeah.
Why exactly were the two girls separated before the girl's birthday? Why would they elect to go camping before the girl's birthday, whose birthday it is the next day, and not take her? Yeah. And then when I was listening to the podcast yesterday, they talked about how the camping was planned months prior by George.
Which does not make sense either. It doesn't make sense.
Which, if he had anything to do to it, offers a load of evidence to premeditation, because when they asked Tracy, she had kind of made it seem like it was the week before that they were like, there was conversations about it. But on the podcast, they said months before. And that's a big fucking difference. Now, it is important to say that multiple family members claim to have heard that voicemail. There was a voicemail, the one that, you know, they heard about the cake, picking up the cake, but it has not been proven that this voicemail even exists because nobody other than the direct family members have ever even heard it. The police haven't even heard it.
And apparently no one wants to give it up.
There is some speculation that it was accidentally deleted and that the FBI have a copy of it, which I think is bullshit. Multiple family members, and really only the family members, have heard this voicemail and the police haven't, but the FBI got it. Come on now.
Yeah.
Now, there's this woman by the name of Sheila Smith. She's the great aunt of the girls. So she's Tracy's aunt. And she claims that she recorded the voicemail on her own file and sent it to her email. When they asked her whether or not they could listen to the voicemail, she claimed that she has it, but it's password protected. And she's afraid if she puts in the wrong password that it will delete, which I'm like, this is not Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I'm like,
send that shit to Quantico. They will do it. They will hack that fucking phone.
And also, okay, so what you gonna do with it then?
Why are you hanging on to it?
What's the point
if nobody can listen to it?
You can't do anything with it. You may as well use it for the instance where it could possibly be necessary.
I mean, and let's say hypothetically this exists. Mama was like, there's no guarantee that file even will play.
Yeah.
After 20 years, it could easily be corrupted.
But we'll never know.
We'll never know because nobody has tried to get into it because she claims it is password protected. Here's the thing about the voicemail. The voicemail, to me, if it exists, implicates Tracy. That's my opinion. I think the voicemail implicates Tracy. And the reason why they are so apprehensive about anybody hearing it. See, what threw it off was that you're willing to say that it exists. You're willing to say that something's on it that implicates George. But then even though why you even record it?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to forget the password, but you think these cell phone companies, you got FBI involved, you got all of these national organizations like Quantico and shit involved, and you think that they don't have the system to probably pop into your 2001 flip phone?
The thing is, I think it's that whoever it is that's representing them could possibly be telling them, look, you can say this, you can say this, you can say this, but you cannot give them a name.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like they're following very strict guidelines.
Yeah, I get you, but it's weird that she's not letting anyone listen to that voicemail.
Of course, I do think that it would get Tracy in some sort of trouble if they did listen to it. But also, I feel like there's someone that has heard it.
Yeah.
Or that knows exactly what's on. They're like, look, you can't tell anybody what's actually on this.
Yeah. Yeah, but my question is then what is that information that you're hiding? And that's why I'm thinking it has more to do with Tracy. Because at the end of the day, they will not only get that file, listen to that file, they will forensically analyze it to see if there's anything that can be heard in the background. To see because that's the thing, on the file, you may be able to hear Tionda say what she's saying and then hear George telling her to say something. Mm-hmm. They have the equipment to turn the volume down, to turn down the white noise, to isolate sound, to see if maybe he was saying something in the background to her, if he was mouthing something but actually making audible noise and it didn't pick up on the phone. They have the ability to do that. So it's not just about what Tionda is saying. It's about being able to forensically break down what's on that fucking tape. And if you're not letting them listen to it, think of the movie Saw. In Saw, when they are looking for the jigsaw killer, right? Mm-hmm. And Danny Glover's character, I'm talking about the first one, Danny Glover's character is obsessing over this video recording.
Oh, I want to watch that.
I know, right? And he watches it, he pauses it, he asks him, he's like, do you hear that? Yeah. And he turns it up, and what does he hear? He hears a bell ringing. And that bell ringing was an alarm bell that he knew was only in a particular area. And that's how they were able to isolate the warehouse that the jigsaw killer was working out of. Because just because you only hear this much, don't mean there isn't more there.
Part of me also believes that there's a possibility that on this tape has nothing. It's absolutely not what they're saying it is. It could be those girls she escaped from him to make a phone call.
Sure.
And she's crying on the phone.
Yeah.
But we'll never know.
Because you get behavioral analysis, language analysis, linguists, people like that to analyze tone. Yeah. She sounds like she's being forced. Analyze this. She sounds like she's scared. You hear how it's the same thing with handwrite analysis. Yeah. They see all of the patterns because you're an energetic being. Your body emits energy to do things. And they can literally be like, the way she did her L here and the way she does her L's there is not the same. So even when they compared her note to another note, they noticed because apparently Tionda had a little bit of a reading disability. She would struggle with spelling certain words. Like the aunt gave an example, like if she would spell need, it wouldn't be N-E-E-D, it'd be N-E-I-D. She would spell phonetically instead of actually the way the word is spelled. But even then, it's kind of like, okay, so we can break this tape down then.
But even in her letter, she would probably write the way that she says it too.
Sure.
So there could have probably been some.
But that doesn't change the fact that she misspelled it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's say that maybe she asked him how to spell it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but either way, or maybe that day she just happened to spell it fucking right. I don't know. But I do know that, you know, for you all to have an actual audio file of this and not be handing it over to the authorities so they can fully assess that is very weird. Now, okay, so that same day, you know, meanwhile, George denies all of this. He's like, I wasn't even fucking there for real. I'm like, this dude's a dick. Yeah. So Tracy gets grilled by the police department. And when she finally gets home and everybody's there, she curses out her family and she's like, what the fuck are you all looking at me for? You think I killed my kids? I'm going to be honest, that makes you look mad sus.
It's like, no one said anything. We're looking at you to see if you know anything. Bruv. You have literally, like, yes, people may be looking at you because you're a sad mother who lost 2 of her children. And it could be just that she was defensive.
I think she was. She says she was defensive because I think she's one of those siblings that always gets in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that her family has been sick of her bullshit for a long time, because there's even a moment where the great aunt said that she leaped at her and wanted to push her out of the window. She was so mad at her. And I could see that level of frustration from somebody that you've literally had to tell the same shit to. And finally it came to a head and look what happened. You know what I mean? Like, her reaction was so visceral and so physical because she's probably thinking like, here you are again, not taking this shit fucking seriously.
Yeah.
And I will say Tracy comes off incredibly selfish, as, you know, some women are, especially when it comes to men and their children.
And money.
And I look at poverty-stricken women can be some of the most ruthless, because at the end of the day, they do everything to survive. And I'm not trying to just give her an excuse. I'm trying, because it's not really an excuse. But you got women who have kids only so they can get welfare checks. I have watched documentaries where women only wanted to keep their kids, not because they loved them and they wanted to take care of them, but they wanted to keep their kids because they wouldn't lower their check. They will lower their check. They'll lose their checks if they don't have all their kids.
But what's even funny about her having these kids is they never said anything about her being abusive.
No, they didn't.
You know, like, or like they felt like they were mistreated in any
No,
type
just
of way.
that she was poor.
Just that she was, sometimes she wasn't home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
but I will say it smacks of child neglect when you're leaving them for extended periods of time.
Oh, for sure.
You know, because okay, you left them during a shift, but leaving them for like a day is a problem. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So okay, so we'll get to this too, because we're kind of all over the place, but you'll get the idea. So the great aunt was very upset with Tracy, because she was like, why do you not know where your kids are? That was Tracy. That was her biggest issue. Now, the campus situation, and we talked about this as a Chicagoan, as an African-American woman, as a Southsider, I can comfortably say that nobody who grew up in the hood for real goes camping in Chicago. I've literally known people my entire life in this town. I don't know any Black people living in the hood specifically that go camping. Sure, people from Hyde Park probably do, and they probably go out of state to do that, but or out of the city to do that. But I don't know anybody who does that here. And it's not a term that we use even to go to the park. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? We don't say, oh, I'm going camping, and then we set up a picnic and go home. That's not what camping is.
From what Mama said, George had been the type of person that camped.
And that's what I meant when I was saying that he was from Michigan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, he does it. So to him, if he were just making up a story to try to figure out a way to get the girls out the house, like, hey, we're going camping.
Yeah.
You know, like, then...
And then Tracy, being a Chicagoan and not even really understanding the concept of camping, is probably not thinking of everything that we would need to go camping or where we're going to go camping. Because at this point, she's probably also happy that he's showing any interest in the kids. Because mind you, Diamond is 3. And probably just flat out thankful that he's even remotely inviting them to do anything. That probably confused her into thinking that her relationship with him was progressing.
Yeah.
Now, where was I? The camping thing. So we don't call going to the park camping. If we're taking our kids to the park, we're just going to say we're taking them to the park. If you said you were taking your kids to the lake, you're just going to say they're taking them to the lake. If you're saying you're taking them to the beach, you're just taking them to the beach. The camping thing is very specific. You are going to a forest somewhere and you are setting up a whole shop and there will be food. But as an African American, this isn't really just anything common for us. And even if you decided to take your kids to a forest preserve, there aren't many forest preserves by the lake. I don't think you would have had to go further west to do that. I even feel like a Chicago person would have just been like, he was taking us to Evergreen Park. He was taking us to blah, blah, blah to go camping. Like she didn't even mention where he was saying he was going to take them to.
Yeah.
That's also weird because some people would have been like, oh, he's going to take us to Wisconsin and then we're going to go camping. So you didn't get none of the deets. Mm-hmm. This man is taking your kids somewhere and with you, of course, but you didn't get none of the deets. I'm like, what are you talking about? Where are we going camping at? That would have been my, you know what I mean? That would have been my line of questioning.
There's that trust there too, because they've been together for so long.
Yes.
So she's kind of just like, I just go where he asked me to go.
Which is funny too, because according to the oldest kids, George never took them anywhere.
Yeah, I saw that.
And according to Tracy, because, I don't want to skip. I'm going to hold that. I'm going to put a pin in that. So anyway, where are you going camping? So the officer is questioning whether or not that maybe they thought camping was something else. You know what I'm saying? Because, like maybe they just got confused on what camping really was. So the police were really focusing on this camping thing because obviously, I keep saying this, Black people just don't do that. So are we sure that they actually were going camping and not just going to a park? Tracy doesn't really have a reason for why the 4 girls were not invited, though. The oldest daughter, one of the oldest daughter, kind of makes the excuse of her not being able to afford the trip, but that seemed like more of an assumption, not that she was told that by anyone. And let's be honest here, like I said 100 times, Black people, we pretty transparent. You can read us. When you fucking up. When we don't want to do it. We make our presence very known. Camping equipment is pretty goddamn expensive.
Yeah.
So even when Tracy is like, I went to go buy a tent. Where you go? 2001 Sports Mart?
I guess.
Where you go? Because it wasn't Dick's.
Yeah.
It wasn't Bass Pro Fish.
They lived in Bronzeville, so it's like there's nowhere.
Where'd you go?
Close to anything
to get a
like
tent?
that.
Because nobody is going to camping in no fucking dollar store tent. And even then, the dollar store shits are kind of just like for fun. Those are for beach play. You buy those every summer.
If you're dating a dude that's used to camping, he's
probably got some camping equipment.
I got one already.
But camping equipment is very expensive. What we do actually is we do go on picnics and we do go to the forest preserve to barbecue and we do go to the beach and we do go to the parks. That's what we do. And we don't usually set up full fucking tents at any of those places. If it's the times we do have tents, we know it's festivals. It's a particular festival. I can also comfortably say that culturally, how expensive it is to take your kids to the park, it's not nearly as costly to take your kids to parks or anywhere there's no big cost difference between 2 and 4. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? What's the difference for real? Like some extra hot dogs, some extra buns, an extra sleeping bag, maybe.
The thing is, they never said what kind of job George had or what job Tracy had.
No. And to me, it was just not enough of a cost to not take all 4 children. And I know that that's relative, but to me, it just wasn't. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the story. So for the sake of conversation, let's just say George killed the kids.
What? Okay.
There was this issue with whether or not he was the father of Diamond. Because George didn't want to be bothered with the child financially. And even though he disputed being the father, he actually was the father. So Oops. So Tracy sues George for child support. And Tracy chuckles when she recalls how upset George was about Diamond, which I felt showed her character in one of those petty hood ways where I was like, you had this baby to spite this man. And I've seen this attitude before because he didn't want to claim her. And you know why he didn't want to claim her? Because he was married. George was married. Tracy would go to name Diamond after George's wife, Diamond.
And laughed about it in the documentary.
And
I
giggled.
thought was hilarious.
Which I was like, that's petty as shit. She didn't know. This is what she claimed. She didn't know if he had a wife. For real, for real. I mean, you named your child after her, so I would say you did. Because she would kind of like make statements like he was like married or something, like kind of trying to gloss over it.
Because, if he's still hanging around her, and then she's like, I don't believe that shit.
Exactly. And honestly, Tracy was apparently in love with him, very much so. And they talk about that on the podcast. She got upset talking about the fact that she wanted to be with him. Like she cried more almost during that moment than any other one. She really, really liked George. It's very clear to me that she was the other woman or a side piece. And she wasn't even just a side piece because there was multiple. George was a bit of a hoe. And I don't know what the situation is here. But it's obvious that he didn't really want any parts of Tracy in that way. He had already threatened her life. He had threatened her family's life. He had talked about killing the kids before, saying things like, shit like, oh, if you ever leave me, I'll kill you type shit.
Yeah, it's given Mister from Color Purple.
It is. And I said this to Mama. Is there any likelihood that George is a pimp?
That's what I said to Mama too. I was like, it's kind of giving daddy.
It's giving pimp. It's giving fucking all my bitches
and that's
behavior.
Also why has she ended up with so many kids?
Yeah,
that all look a little different.
All her kids look different.
So I think that, and it also would account for why she's always leaving them at home.
Yeah.
Like they're always home alone because that's what she got to do. And like I said, she said, he picked me up. He took me over the bridge and he took me down 47.
Like he treating her like a...
And we went to McDonald's or Burger King or something.
The following... Yeah. Like he's treating her like a throwaway.
Yeah.
And I think, because Tracy really liked him, Tracy got warped. And obviously I don't know if this woman and George are prostitute pimp relationships. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, something about it smacks of that to me. Like just how dismissive and disrespectful he is. I mean, it's so obvious that he didn't fuck with her for real, because what we later find out, and you find this out on the podcast, that before he went to Tracy's house on July 5th, he went to another woman's house named Tionda Stewart. He went to her house as well. And then there was another woman that was mentioned that he also went to, and we'll talk about her when I get to that part of the story. He had been to her house too, and she lived in Gary. So I'm like, this motherfucker is just like couch surfing, just hopping from house to house. Well,
I said for a minute, I wondered if he was messing with Tracy's sister.
Why you say that?
Because wasn't she protecting him too at one point?
Oh, I may have missed that. I don't know. I may have missed that.
I feel like some of the time.
I mean, I wrote this. Maybe I wrote that in here somewhere. Hold on. Okay, so let me get there.
I also watched it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, true. But no, so like, and I'm only saying that because, there's like 3 different women here. So there's Tracy, there's this woman named Tionda, and then there's another woman. And then there's his actual wife who, if I'm not mistaken, actually lives in Detroit. And I'm trying to figure out why he's so mobile. Like, why are you around like this if you're married like this? Now, here's the thing about George. After this happens, a few days later, they search George's home and they find a receipt from July 7th, which is the day after the kids disappeared, where he purchased these big industrial garbage bags and 2 pairs of gloves.
Just for gardening.
5 trash bags were missing. 1 pair of the gloves were never found. They were used in a home renovation project, according to George. George also claimed that he used these bags to just get rid of some debris, and he dumped the bags in a nearby park. Now, I may be 100% correct because I grew up on the southwest side, not the southeast side. But George tells the police that he drops these bags off in this park that's near a lagoon. And lagoons are pretty prominent over on the East Point, like off of Stony, through Hyde Park, those little, they kind of like man-made little ponds that they put there back before, during the Columbian Exposition, when that whole museum area, Midway Plaisance, all of that was like decadent as fuck. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not mistaken. And so who takes home renovation garbage all the way to a lagoon, to a park where there's a lagoon, when you probably passed 20 abandoned 30-yard dumps?
Yeah.
Because if you know anything about being in the hood, there are these random garbage containers that are spread out through the Southside from where they've gotten rid of debris from construction sites, or where they got rid of debris from dilapidated houses that they tore down, and they just haven't been picked up yet. Mm-hmm. And most of the time in the hood, and I've done it, if you got some shit to throw away that you can't throw away anywhere else, like a mattress or a couch or some shit like that, you usually go to one of those.
Yeah, because you can't track garbage.
So who the fuck goes all the way to a lagoon, a park, a pretty ass Chicago park that happens to have a lagoon, to dump construction trash,
the thing
renovation
that pisses me off
waste?
The most about him is he just didn't care.
He didn't give a fuck.
Like, he did this in the middle of the night. People,
maybe.
Chances are,
we don't know that. We don't know that.
I thought they said that.
Mm-mm. You ain't letting me. You going ahead of the story.
Wait, this is? Yeah, but this is when his neighbors saw him in a document. No, that was me and Mama talking about that. She said we find it weird if no one saw him when he was carrying the bags.
Oh yes.
Because we were like,
mm-hmm.
I was like, if it was summertime and if it was July,
people were outside.
Like holiday weekend, people are outside.
But my point is that why would you take your garbage all the way to a park near a lagoon? That's weird. So, of course, by the time the city gets there, the garbage receptacles have been emptied, which to me is just pretty out of the fucking way. Like, nobody does that. Mm-hmm. And so you had to have passed 43 30-yard dumps on the South Side. You could have taken that shit literally anywhere. And you can literally dump a mattress there and it'll be there for months, because those dumps stay there for long periods of time. How
did they know he bought the garbage bags?
Because the receipt.
He saved the receipt.
He ain't got no reason to throw it away.
That's what I'm saying. He don't care.
You know when people don't care is when they know you'll never find the bodies. Yeah, because if you'll never find the bodies, you'll never have a murder. You don't have them. You had, like, remember we talked about with the last one we did on Robert Leroy Anderson. He got hit the first time with aggravated kidnapping. And that was because all of the details associated with his car, all of the details associated with his car and connecting it to the person that he actually kidnapped. But they couldn't hit him with murder because they had no bodies.
But so does this mean that dude has done this before?
I don't know if it means that he's done it. I think that at the end, I mean, that's possible. I think at the end of the day, too, he could have, and that could be for a number of reasons. It could be because he was an Army vet and he was used to being like that. Could have been because he's a fucking cop. Could have been that he is a fucking pimp who is or a gangster that's used to disposing bodies. It could be anything, to be totally honest. But I will say what is strange, and what's wild about this is there's so much circumstantial evidence. His neighbors start talking. And his neighbors start talking about how there was a barrel burning in his garage.
Oh, that barrel pissed me off so bad.
Which I mean, you can make that mistake as like, oh, he was burning a barrel. Maybe he was burning leaves, except it's July. Does he commonly burn shit in his garage? Because I would say that's the most dangerous place to burn anything.
Like, they said they found smut.
So he denies it. They go there and they find scorch marks on the roof of the garage.
On the roof of the garage. So it's like you're not good at lying. Why are you even denying?
Because he knows that it's circumstantial.
Yeah, like you're not good at lying.
So it's possible. Well, he's not trying to lie. He's not really. He's not really trying to lie. That's the crazy part. It's possible that Tionda caught George killing Diamond, and maybe decided that I should kill Tionda first. I also like to preface this that there is no verified proof that Tionda or Diamond are dead, which is one of the reasons why this is still open and one of the reasons why her family is still looking for her. I unfortunately have a very pessimistic opinion. 21 years later, 22 years later, a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old, what do you think they're doing right now?
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, kids get kidnapped all the time.
They do.
Especially in Chicago.
And they also, a lot of the time, get murdered by people that they actually know. Mm-hmm. So George was put on the polygraph and he passed. And he would pass because he's a sociopath. Sociopaths pass. Eventually, Tracy shut down and stopped talking altogether, and she claimed it was because they were treating her like she was a criminal. Look, I understand this from the emotional standpoint, but I don't really understand this logically, because logically, they are trying to find your kids, my guy.
Yeah.
Let them treat you like a criminal, because matter of fact, treat me like a criminal so much that you eliminate me as a suspect. She claimed that she was like this because she was also incredibly afraid to go to jail, which I understand. Jail is a fucking scary ass place. You best believe I have no interest in going to jail. I was going
to say, and I've never even been, but just from what I've seen on TV,
I'm good.
And the times I've been on, like in an actual jail, like in the county from when we're filming.
Bad.
And they tell me, just stand there and don't touch the walls. And I'm
like there's shit and semen and pee and all types of blood and all types of shit on the wall.
This is like parts of the jail that's closed down that no one has been in for years, and they're still saying don't touch the wall.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying, man.
The places are nasty.
Nasty as fuck. And you can just feel the souls in there.
Yeah, it's the energy's thick, dark, probably.
It's dim.
It's like being in a dilapidated hospital. Like when I used to drive past the old Cook County, I was like, the old Cook County Hospital just gives haunted.
Or even when you just drive past Mercy Hospital. Now.
Damn.
Damn, have you ever been in Mercy? Lord.
Wait, no, that's where Granny died, right?
Mercy?
Yeah, I think she was taken to Mercy.
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what.
Wait, you were in LA. That's why you didn't know. Yeah. It was Mercy.
I've been to Mercy emergency room, and I was there for 14 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, Mercy. So they eventually arrested her, and she claims they arrested her for no reason. She said she fell, she fell back a little bit. She felt disrespectful. What she meant was she felt disrespected. She really had no real, care for she had really no real reason to stop talking to me. And to me, I'm just like, it just makes you look suspicious. I do want to say back to the note real quick. Tiana apparently had a little bit of a reading disability. And then when I listened to the podcast, they were like, oh, she was really smart and she was this. So I don't know what's true anymore. Okay. But, she could still be smart and have a reading disability. So I guess I just sound like an asshole saying that, but.
It's still, that's also a circumstance.
Yeah. But, the family did kind of just feel like the grammar in the note was different and it didn't sound like another note that she had written. So they bring in this other investigator by the name of Foster. He deals with families that don't have great relationships with the police. So when people start to shut down and things like that, he's kind of like the Negro translator from Key and Peele. When I got So when they got the paternity test back and George was actually Diamond's father, he was very upset. And when Tracy decided to name her child after his wife, which in the documentary, she kind of unabashedly giggles about, which I think was pretty petty and incredibly strange. It just goes to show what type of individual she is. And she had this plan of naming her love child with a man that doesn't want to be with her after his wife. That's wild. She strikes me as the type. I also
found that funny.
It was fun. I mean, it's funny, but it's petty.
Was terrible.
So this is
why?
But this is what look. I was just in this situation myself where I pushed a man to a point who was crazy, where he did shit that he said he was going to do. Mm-hmm. And to me, when you know that about the person, don't push them. Mm-hmm. I don't like putting baby in a corner.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned about men, this is what's so funny about men, is men always try to make it seem like we're emotional. Do you realize that you can hear my voice too much and it annoys you to the point where you feel like strangling me? That's not normal, my guy. The fuck do you mean?
Like, why are you so emotional? It's like, why are you're the one that's yelling?
Says the person that just killed his whole family.
Like you're literally
says
yelling.
I talked about this with Chris Watts. So this is almost like a what do they call them on television? This is almost like no. The episodes of shows, bottleneck episodes when they don't want to
show different episodes.
When they show
one episode.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're having a conversation and literally there is no structure to this conversation, but I keep referencing old episodes, basically telling you to go back and listen to them shits because you should have listened to them already.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, no, but I did an episode on Chris Watts or whatever, and Chris Watts, he was, this very meek at first guy who ended up killing two of his only two children because he allowed this woman to push him to a point. And I was like, to murder?
Yeah.
Not to put, you call us emotional when you slash your tire, like we slash your tires and break your fucking windows, but you killed both of our kids and excuse me, he didn't just kill the two kids, he killed his wife too. So you killed the wife and your two children. And then, but the women are the emotional ones.
I think we also need to remember that this young man was from Detroit.
Damn. Devil's Night.
They don't fucking play around.
They don't. Okay. And I'm gonna be honest, we don't know enough about this dude either. I don't know if he was a gangbanger or that's what makes him a wild boy.
That's what scares me about him because you know nothing about him.
And what's even scarier is how calm his energy is in this.
He's like, I'm going to drop you off over here. You can look on the bridge.
Figure it out.
I took you to get something to eat.
Facts. Maybe. Maybe. Because she was kind of remembering that story. She was like, maybe we went to go get something to eat.
Burger King or McDonald's.
Yeah.
You're not going to know much about me in this.
You're not.
Because I'm absent.
You're not going to know much about me either. Because
all we can do is assume that he was a piece of shit just based off of how he was acting.
For sure.
He could have been a total sweetheart up until this point.
He could have been a sweetheart to anybody else, but I'm going to tell you what, he wasn't a sweetheart to Tracy.
Absolutely not. He was probably a sweetheart to his wife.
Yeah, for sure.
At least close.
And I think whatever it was, I think, to me, the tipping point, because mind you, Diamond's 3. So Diamond has lived for 3 years before he decided to do this. And to me, I'm wondering what the tipping point was. Mm-hmm. Because the naming of the child wasn't it. But I do know that she started pursuing child support. To me, we got motive, we got means, and we got opportunity, baby. What we don't have is bodies.
Did she really think George was going to pay her child support?
But even then, he didn't want Tracy.
He didn't
want Tracy.
He didn't want a baby either.
No, and he specifically didn't want a baby with Tracy.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I'm like, men are always like, I don't want a baby. Well, you should have thought about that when you busted all them nuts in her every Friday evening. Ugh. That was mad. That was wild. Yeah, that was crazy.
That got dark.
That was daft. I fucked up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Like, why would you do this? Like, why would you, if you don't want to get this woman pregnant, why you shooting the club up? So,
Shoot the club
so
up.
anyway.
Shoot the club
Okay.
up.
So anyway, she strikes me as the type of woman that like to push buttons, and in the hood, women are like that. And then when they get popped in the mouth, when he slaps her, breaks her neck, strangles her, does anything else, it's kind of like, yeah, should he have had that reaction? No. But if you already knew that he was threatening the kids, that's the only thing. Whatever. She was leaving these kids alone a lot, and she shouldn't have left them kids with him. But I think, and there's no guarantee either because he's so quiet, what manipulation tactics he could have possibly used if it were him. I don't know that it was him. Whatever. These are just my opinions. But I don't think we know what manipulation tactics he could have used on her either. But she's not saying if there were any either. She's not saying he was being so nice to me. And he said he wanted to take the kids camping. And I was like, I thought maybe for once he wanted this relationship to work. She's not adding any of that extra fluff.
Yeah.
She's just leaving it as he said he wanted to go camping.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough for somebody who never wants to be around your kids.
Yeah. And I mean, it automatically makes him look guilty anyway.
It does.
Because it's like, if you're not giving us nothing to work with, we have no choice but to think it.
To assume, yeah. But what he knows is that in law, they can't send him to jail.
Yeah. Because he was never around.
No. And we don't know if Tracy's been threatened. We don't know any of that.
Which I think is still the case.
I can see that still being the case.
Because she just still looked too scared to me.
She does. She don't even look scared to me. She looks guilty. And I'm not saying she looks guilty like she killed her kids. She looks guilty like she feels bad, like she made a bad decision somewhere. And I think it's because it could be the simple fact that she left her kids with him, knowing what she knew. I mean, I felt the same thing about my dog.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like you have your moments of being like, damn, I fucked up. And this happened. And I think I can see in Tracy too, her maybe thinking she's a fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And then hearing it from her neighbors, because there's even a part in the documentary where she even says the neighbors being like, oh, that's that woman who killed her kids.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. Yeah. So I don't want to just like bash. I don't want to have a trash Tracy's, moment, but she doesn't look good. He doesn't look good either.
He never did.
He never did. But she, the more she speaks, the worse she looks to me. And I think with George, if he had anything to do with this, he's smart enough to be like, I ain't saying shit because I already know whatever I'm going to say is going to come off a certain way. And he's going to be right because what he has said has come off a certain way.
Well, yeah, because it's very fucking dry for one.
Yeah.
And it never adds up.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense ever.
It doesn't. So then a couple months later, 9/11 happens. And the news coverage. News coverage gets shifted to acts of terrorism and, the war on terrorism, politics. So the police, their resources are now being used towards terrorism and keeping cities safe because they don't know, these cities don't know what city is next. So time goes by, 2005 hits, and they find bones on the far south side. When they, actually talked to the forensics over at Quantico, they discovered that the bones did not belong to them though. So one of the investigators eventually would decide to start from the beginning and look at the case again. And he finds in one of his file cabinets hair samples that were never actually processed at the crime lab.
Which pissed me off. So
infuriating. So he takes the hair samples, he gets them processed, and they come back to belong to Tionda. But the wild part about the hair samples is that they were found in the trunk.
Pissed me off even more.
Of George's car.
It's like, what were y'all doing? What were you doing? Like,
here's why it doesn't matter. Because regardless, it didn't matter. So even if it was processed, they can't do anything with the evidence because they can't arrest him for that. And one of the people on there, and they showed like a clip from a news segment where the woman was like, unfortunately, her mother could have put it in the trunk, or it could have been a backpack or something that had her hair on it.
Well, it just makes me think, if y'all missed this, what else did you miss?
Sure. Oh yeah, that's true. Now that part is true.
Like if you missed, there's hair in the trunk. Yeah, it could have been transferred. But what about something that wasn't? And it was blatantly obvious, but y'all
I don't know, like a burning barrel.
Yeah, a burning barrel in this nigga trunk.
Like, where is the barrel? Oh, what I didn't mention about the barrel either was that there were striations on his vehicle showing that he had taken that barrel out of his trunk. Yeah. So that's what's crazy too, is like George denies all of this shit. He's like, I don't know why I hair in my trunk. I don't know what you talking about. None of this is real. He claimed that he used to put the kids in the trunk to sneak them in the drive-in, except there were no drive-ins in Chicago in 2001. So it's like, how long
you got these kids in the trunk?
And low-key, even if you did have them in the trunk, the kids verified you've never taken them anywhere ever.
So why would you take these kids?
Oh, so now I see what you mean. Yeah, he is a really bad liar.
Yeah.
He's doing this on a whim because it doesn't make sense. You've never done anything with the kids ever. You've never showed any affection. You've never pretended like you've even liked these kids for real. And then you say you took them to a drive-in, my guy?
Like just you and the kids.
Like we got to drive in now? But I think that shit just popped up during COVID because low-key, early 2000s, there wasn't nobody going to no drive-in. And there were no drive-ins to go to. The drive-ins that we used to go to, like the one that was off of 79th and Western, that motherfucking place had been closed since like 96.
Yeah.
George had not taken them any fucking where.
But also, I think we're even missing the fact that putting kids in the trunk regardless is
weird.
Dumb.
And low key, you can literally have them on the back seat on the floor. Put a blanket over them.
Why would you have kids in the trunk?
And it's 2001. Who goes to the drive-in?
It was not.
And you know what was crazy? When they asked Tracy, had she ever been taken?
Yeah, she goes, I don't think so.
She goes, drive-in, movies. He had never taken that woman anywhere. Because first of all, you've been fucking a dude for 6 years that's never taken you to the movies.
Mm-hmm. To a drive-in. To a movie.
Like, god damn. That's how you know this wasn't a relationship. See, this is what I hate to keep, something's about this dynamic and side chick behavior, 100% at the very least. Yeah. It's side chick behavior. But even then, there are side chicks that actually get taken out on dates.
Yeah.
That get money, that get, cars, that get all types of shit, sure. But there are also just women who fuck dudes and they just go out together.
And every now and then, they get something to eat.
They get something to eat and they go to the movies. Maybe that happens.
Yeah.
Maybe y'all ain't going to the fucking symphony, but you're definitely going to the movies. For her to be flabbergasted by the question that he took them to the movies is telling.
Yeah.
So Tracy would eventually have another baby with George. I just want to throw that out.
Which I'm just laughing at how you threw that in there. Like, by the way, they had another baby.
Why? Why are you fucking George?
Because I think she's still trying to spite his wife. That's one. Also, she still like him.
Because she is a typical need love woman.
Yeah, she still like him.
Kind of pathetic. And in a position where she's with I told Mama too, I said, I'm going to be honest, you don't know. It could have been forced sex. Yeah. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she may still not have the resources to get rid of the baby.
Sure. I mean, and at the end of the day, it doesn't keep him from busting nuts again.
Still.
Of course, he takes her to court and gets custody in 2011, which is wild to me. If he killed these kids and then what? Because you didn't want a girl? I'm confused.
But even had the nerve to take them to court, being like, I'm going to take you to court.
And I didn't look into the custody
after
thing.
You potentially killed my kid.
That's what I was just about to say. How the fuck did you win custody when you were technically a suspect in a murder? Possibly a murder or a kidnapping.
Or even involved in a murder. At all.
At all. So a woman in Indiana ended up actually posting a comment on the comment section of a TV show called Our Missing on TV One. And she claimed that she knew George Washington. And she was with him on the day the girls disappeared. But when they looked into the information, they learned that his cell phone had been pinging in Chicago the entire day, and she lived in Gary, Indiana. So that had to be incorrect, which is like, what the fuck did you even call for? Now, anybody who is not looking for these two children, to me, knows what happened to them. And to be 100% honest, Tracy looks really, really, really suspect to me. And I don't know if in what way. I don't think that she is directly involved, but I think she knows a lot more than she's saying. And it could be simply because George is an ass and he told her what he did. And now she knows and has to deal with the grief of what the fuck just happened. Now, by the end of the documentary, we find out that there was a phone record that proves that she was not home July 5th or the morning of July 6th. She was confronted about it, which means that the children were alone all evening. So not, I just, went to work, came home from work, went to sleep, woke up, went to work. No. That's not what you did. What you did was you were actually not at home that night or that morning.
Yeah.
He dropped her off at 7:00 in the morning. Tracy claimed that she had been dropped off by him 6:30, 7:00. So it's proven again that she's not telling the fucking truth. She stayed with George that whole fucking night and did not come home until 11 a.m. the following morning because George dropped her off at work and picked her up at work and her kids were already gone. How could she forget that? Because in the documentary, she act like she forgot that.
Yeah, she's like, I can't believe I didn't remember that. And I'm like, that's a huge difference.
How?
There's a huge difference. And like I've said, I understand she may be going through some kind of trauma where like things aren't sticking to her memory.
Yeah, for sure. It's possible.
It involves her kids, so she just blocks out the day. Okay, I got that. But also,
you remember what she did the day before?
This is a case about your children. You got to remember certain aspects of it because this is the day when some wild shit happened.
Yes.
I remember the day you randomly trip over a suitcase in the airport. Yeah. You never forget it again.
Yep, for sure.
It's like, it's just got to stick.
I mean, now, mind you, I know that the timeline of Tracy is a bit weird because this 9:30, 10 o'clock period, and this was on the podcast, the evening of July 5th, around 9:30, 10 o'clock, Tracy was home and she was drinking with friends. So we can account that after 10 o'clock, we don't know where the fuck she was. Then at 2:18 in the morning on July 6th, they get a call. The house gets a call. The call lasts for 1 minute and 46 seconds. Then at 2:26, George Sr. comes to the apartment. He was too drunk to remember. So here we got what I think happened. 9:30, 10 o'clock, Tracy was drinking with her friends. Her friends confirmed that they were getting fucked up. After 10, she's supposed to link up with homie. Probably because she fucked up and she horny. She meets up with him. They do their thing. Around 2:00 in the morning, Tracy wakes up. Fuck. Let me call George Sr. Let me call the kids. She may call the kids. 2:18. Pick up the phone. Tionda. Hey, Mom. What's up? What's cracking? Whatever. 2:26. George Sr. goes downstairs to check on the kids. Now, it could have been, too, that George Sr. called at 2:18 to check on the kids. Picked up the phone, talked to Tionda for looks like roughly a minute and 46 seconds. 2 minutes almost. It could be that was the call as well. But what we do know is at 2:30 that morning, George Sr. came to the apartment, but he was too drunk to remember what actually he saw in the apartment. This is what happens when you got too many negligent adults hanging around.
Too irresponsible.
Now, what we can also say is the day of the kidnapping, 8 a.m., Tionda leaves Tracy a voicemail that she didn't get. This was on the podcast, that she didn't get because her phone was dead. You know what the voicemail?
So happened.
You know what the voicemail said? 8 a.m. that morning, Tionda says to Tracy on the voicemail, George is at the door.
Eek, really? That's creepy. I didn't know that. Oh, because I haven't listened to the podcast.
George is at the door. Tionda said that at 8 a.m. Who the fuck? From 8 to 11, that's a 3-hour time span. But what we really don't know is from 6:30 when he drops Tracy off to around about 11:30 when he finally gets back to fucking house. We don't know where George was. Mm-hmm. Really 10:30 because we know he picked her up at 11. So we could say 11. From 6:30 to 11, we don't know where the fuck George is. That's 5 hours to do whatever the fuck you want. He had nothing but time and opportunity to do whatever the fuck he wanted. That's 5 hours. So at 8 a.m. though, this is what we do know. So that's an hour and a half after he dropped, what's her name off? An hour and a half after he dropped her off, Tionda leaves a voicemail saying that he was at the door. Now, mind you, Tionda's doing what she's told, which is calling Tracy to let her know that somebody's at the door. Now, this is what Mama heard on the podcast, but I didn't remember this part. She said that Tionda said, George, somebody named George is at the door, which tells me that the kids didn't even know George.
Yikes. Jesus. Because even if they were talking about the neighbor, they would know him.
Yeah.
Ew.
And here's the other thing. Porgy don't gotta make himself known because Tracy was always telling him to go downstairs and check on the kids.
Ugh.
So here we got George at the door at 8 o'clock in the morning. From that period, we don't know what the fuck he did.
That's fucking terrifying anyway. Having some man you don't even know pop up at your door at 8 o'clock in the morning as a kid.
And you know what I think that voicemail says? Tracy probably approved George entering that home. Mm-hmm. Tionda probably said on that original voicemail, the one they don't want us to fucking hear, Mama said that I could to let George in. Mm-hmm. That's the only, and we gonna go pick up a cake. That's what I think that voicemail says. And I think what they're trying to do is not implicate Tracy in this because it would further probe her. We ain't got to worry about Tracy losing her kids now because the only kids she got grown in the motherfucker. They my age.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about losing them now. What we need to worry about is what Tracy's involvement is in this, how much she actually knows, and whether or not George is the only suspect.
I always kind of thought that Tracy may have helped, as in like she gave up her children for whatever the reason may have been.
Yeah.
I don't think she was there when it actually happened.
No, because she was at work.
Yeah. But I think that's what saved her. The fact that, I'm going to do it while you at work.
Yeah. It's plausible deniability.
Yeah, because she don't know what happened.
Yeah, but even then, let's say Tracy was a part of the plan. I mean, at the end of the day, how do we prove it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she'll never get in trouble because the people that know about it are her family.
Yeah.
Like George ain't gonna say nothing because that would also make him guilty.
Yeah.
So everybody involved not gonna do it. They're not gonna do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she just now has to live with the guilt.
Yeah. And I personally feel like holding that voicemail, everybody if that voicemail does exist, it may be a smoking gun that you're holding on to. So you must not be all that eager into finding these girls, which I hate to say, I do not think they're alive. And the police don't think they're alive either.
Well, there's even all of those girls that keep randomly popping up saying that one of them's Diamond. It's
like, bitch, go away.
That's not.
Go away.
Don't do that.
And but that's the new age version of, people writing letters to the police and shit. Yeah. Because, for somebody to hop on TikTok and be like, oh yeah, I'm Diamond, I got a scar on my forehead and all of this. And then when they actually tried to meet up with her, who was like, I guess she was now living in Texas. When they tried to meet up with her, she was like, I don't know why y'all came all the way down here because the DNA test ain't came back. Which I did understand, but her reaction was very suspect. Like, what are you on? Mm-hmm. Like, what you on?
Yeah.
I mean, she had a point, but she was rude. I mean, you got grieving parents and all this other shit, and they should have notified her. They should have said, hey, we're planning on coming down. We'd love to meet you. And it to me, it had an air about it that they didn't say they were coming. They just showed up.
It could have been a possibility where she told them before, hey, I told you not to come.
Yeah. That could be it.
They just went anyway because they're like, well, if we go down there, she probably just gonna let us in.
Yeah, but in Rude Awakening, she didn't.
Yeah.
She said we'll talk when the DNA come. Yeah, because in her head, she probably like, I ain't even really trying to involve myself in this shit for real without knowing whether or not I'm really her.
I mean, well, yeah, because it just fucks everything else up for you.
Exactly.
You get involved and then it turns out you have nothing to do with it.
Exactly. So I hope this is coherent. It probably isn't. I hope that they figure out what happened here, because I know that there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. I know there's a lot that we just don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know some of what we don't know. But the bigger issue here is we don't have bodies. We don't have bodies. You need bodies. And, the best crime scene of a murder is the body. Forensic analysts can break it apart, do what they need to do with it, and really figure out what happened. But right now, with nobody talking, this hood code that people always have too, where they just don't like talking to the police and all that other shit.
Stitches, granddad.
You ain't gonna, you know what I mean?
No
like, you're not gonna get this solved if you don't have the complete participation of everybody involved. And I think that Tracy and George has weaved a very tangled web. This isn't good. This isn't good. And I think in 2023, Tracy, if she is concerned, she should continue to be concerned. And I also think George should be too, because with episodes and podcasts and all this other stuff, you're bringing out a new generation of super sleuths and internet sleuths and people who just be bored and want to do this shit. And people who, I know it's only been 22 years, but and I know that that's a long time. People do remember shit again. People do find things again. People do come up on shit again. So don't just think because right now you don't got as much as the information that, or people aren't really talking like that, doesn't mean you won't get caught.
Yeah.
So you can keep playing that game if you want to. And don't get me wrong. There are a lot of murders and kidnappings and aggravated kidnappings that lead to murders that remain unsolved. That's for sure.
Just stop kidnapping people.
And we keep saying that.
It's really creepy.
If you don't learn anything from this last episode of I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God's first season, stop being shitty.
Like, stop bothering kids that's not your kids.
Yeah,
that don't
just
know you.
just leave people
Stop
alone.
Popping up at the house. Don't take nobody camping. Don't buy nobody no cake. Leave people the fuck
Don't celebrate the 4th of July.
alone.
Yeah. And I think that that's what I think by doing this podcast, if I were to take away anything from this, it makes me think about how to treat people better. It makes me think about how to actually move in this world. So the big question is, when people are obsessed with true crime, what do we get out of that? What I get out of it is the fact that, one, I get to really break apart what makes people the way they are. But also what I also get from it is that, there are good people, there are bad people. It keeps me balanced. But what it also does is it teaches me too that every person walking this planet is not a fucking monster. And there's that small percentage of people that is. And a lot of the times there are signs well before it gets this fucking bad.
And y'all aren't all born this way.
But we be ignoring them shits because
weird.
She had signs. She just ignored them for whatever reason.
I mean, ignorance is truly blessed.
Sure. So, all right, y'all. I'll see you all in a couple months. Bid Kirrah adieu on
Adios, au revoir.
2-month journey out this bitch. And I hope to be more prepared next season.
I'm telling you right now, as a Sagittarius, I'm not going to be prepared.
I hope to be more prepared next season. I do. I hope to, bring some new stuff, some new graphics. Maybe we'll go video next year. I hope Kirrah chooses to be on it more. hope we got time to do this more. I don't hate it. So I think that's all I can ask for at this point.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it, but I am hungry. So take care, everybody. This is episode 20 on the Bradley Sisters. Do not sue us. Don't sue us. Don't come over here because these are just our motherfucking opinions.
Please don't
we
sue
ain't
me.
got it.
I'm
We ain't
just a
got it.
girl. I'm just a girl.
I'm just a girl.
All I got is this phone.
Exactly.
Like, I got nothing else right now. And cats. I have two.
Exactly. And that's the period. All right, y'all. Peace out. Enjoy yourselves.
Bye.
Enjoy your rest of your summer. Bye.